Board of Directors is July 17th, 1997. And I would like to say happy birthday to my son Daniel H. O'Connell Jr. It is his 8th birthday, and I guess once in a while board members get a few liberties. The meeting tonight is our regularly scheduled action meeting when we will vote on matters which have been previously discussed. This meeting is being videotaped for community cable channels. Individuals attending this meeting and intending to speak to the board should be aware that they are being videotaped. In order to meet the requirements of Pennsylvania Sunshine Law, it is necessary to record the names of all citizens who speak to the board during the meeting. To assure compliance with this requirement, it is essential that those planning to address the board come to the microphone and state their name and address. Members of the audience are asked to limit their questions and comments to no more than 5 minutes. This limit will permit time for all those who wish to speak to the board to do so. Whenever members of the audience exceed this time limit, the board president may ask the individual to yield the microphone to the next speaker, and this is in reference to Board Policy 8344.2. Again, we'd like to welcome you. We appreciate those of you that are willing to go out in this dreadful heat and come here and enjoy the air conditioning with us and listen to what we have to say. We thank you for being here. We have what appears to be maybe a short agenda. We don't anticipate being here very long this evening, but it is a necessary meeting, action meeting for the month of July. And we're on schedule in August. We anticipate an August 12th meeting, which may also turn into an action meeting, but at this point we will have that work session and also the action meeting in August. There was talk at one time that the August 12th meeting may be canceled, and I'd like to inform you tonight, and made a matter of the record, Mrs. Hatfield, that it will not be canceled. So at this time, we need a Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Mosey, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Members of the board, I need approval of the minutes of the 742nd meeting held on 6/19/97 as circulated.
Question, if I can, Madam President.
Okay, questions after I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Mosey. A second?
Second.
Mr. Scher, motion by Mosey, second by Scher. Questions to the left, Mr. Mosey.
I just got a revised copy tonight. It was in this little blue folder. What's revised? Can anyone tell us?
I can.
Mrs. Shear found an error,
Right.
so we corrected it.
There was a
Eric,
portion
what
of
was
the
that,
meeting in
Vic?
which I had left the room, and it had not been noted, so the unanimous votes had to be reduced to 6 as opposed to 7. And that occurred on BM. Yeah, BM7. And you will see, if you're looking at, are you looking at the new copy, Pat?
Yes.
You see the part where it's now inserted that I left the room?
Okay.
To where I removed, those are the votes. It was
That's the
simply
only
number,
change?
the count, yes.
So the vote issue, I don't have mine before me. The vote issue was what?
No other change in the language.
Mr. Scher, what vote did you walk out of?
No, I walked out, it was during the vandalism report. It's marked on the new copy that's in the...
But you said a vote had to be changed?
No, the numbers, the totals of votes cast at that time.
Okay.
And you'll see where it is now
I see the
noted on
future.
BM7.
Mrs. Hatfield, that these minutes were then so corrected, so what the motion and second was made upon is accurate to the best of your knowledge. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed would say nay. Thank you. I also need approval of the minutes of the 743rd meeting held on 6/26/97 as circulated.
So moved. Second.
Motion by White, second by Clements. Any questions around? To the right. Left. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed would say nay. Thank you. I need approval of the minutes for 744th meeting held on 6/30/97 as circulated.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mosey, second by White. Questions to the left around? To the right? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Say nay. Thank you.
Abstention.
Okay.
I'd like
Be it
to-
noted that Mrs. Hatfield, that there is one abstention.
I'd like to request a copy of that tape be forwarded also so that I can catch up with those minutes.
Okay.
The meeting matches.
Mrs. Hatfield, generally, Board Secretary Weir handles that. Mrs. Scher has requested House copy of the tape of the 6/30/97 meeting, and also she has abstained, and she will need an abstention form to be filled out. Okay. Committee reports, facilities, buildings, and grounds, Mr. Sean.
Yes. Regarding modulars, over Montgomery and North Wales, we're moving right along with delivery anticipated for North Wales sometime in August, and also the Montgomery modulars not far behind. End of report.
Okay, any questions of Mr. Schilling or Mr. Wood? Anybody? The left? Right? Thank you, sir. Mr. Hill is not here. Community services and policy, is there a pickup?
Oh, that would be me, and we have no report, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Moser. K through 12 curriculum, Mrs. Krieger.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Magel. I don't have a formal report this evening, but I would like to inform the board, particularly Mr. Weitz and Dr. Bose, that Dr. Hassler and I met late last week with a member of our community, Mrs. Vivian Heinrich from Montgomery Township. I had been contacted by Mrs. Heinrich in the past and talked to her again and decided that it was necessary to meet with her and discuss some of the findings that she, as a computer volunteer coordinator, had compiled in information and insight into the current status of our K through 12 curriculum in the area of technology. In meeting with Mrs. Heinrich and Dr. Hassler, I must report to the board that Mrs. Heinrich truly has contributed to this district's ability to now begin the much talked about curriculum component for the future technology in the school district. She forwarded to us examples of technology curriculums from other school districts. She has done a K through 6 district-wide assessment in discussions and even site visits to some of the elementary schools as well as the middle schools and the high school with those parents, teachers, advisors that are knowledgeable with the current status of the technology situation in our classrooms. After further discussion, Dr. Hassler and I agreed that it was time to get the ball rolling, and we have decided to set up a board committee for the purpose of beginning that discussion of the development of our technology curriculum. It is the intent of myself and Dr. Hassler to put together an interim report to the board. It is your input as well as the community's input that we need to truly develop a comprehensive curriculum component for technology in the school district. I would very much appreciate each and every board member's input when the time comes. Dr. Hassler, he can expound upon where he is at this point in establishing the parameters and some of the objectives and goals we hope to achieve in the future, and if he'd like to. And I just wanted to update the board as to this time where we are, since that has been such a hot topic of debate as of late. Dr. Hassler, would you like to add anything? I didn't have anything prepared, but...
Just briefly, I think what we would like to do is bring back to the board some concrete examples of what the curriculum would look like and how it ties into our existing curriculum and what it'll do to have help students learn what we're trying to teach them as a tool, so that we know that the curriculum is not an adjunct, but the technology is not an adjunct, but part of our regular curriculum. So that'll be our goal.
If I may ask also, Dr. Hassler, I got another publication this week again concerning about policy and internet, and you're looking into that, I hope, because we get criticized for not moving fast enough on the internet, but we're constantly being cautioned by PSBA and the various organizations about schools have gotten themselves in trouble because they haven't set up policy and certain guidelines. I hope you'll address that as well.
I know Ken Weir's working on that.
Thank you.
And it's through the board's input, too, as well, that we can establish those policies. And I would encourage each and every one of you to please participate in this.
Any questions?
Yes, just as a follow-up, my question was going to revolve around policy regarding the internet, but as we received the report from the Technology Committee, there were listings of some of our student body that currently has access to the internet. What is governing over those students' use of the internet at this point in time?
Pretty much the building principal, and also in discussion with us, so that we're trying to make sure that everyone's utilizing it the same way. But I agree that we need to have a district policy that's written and enforced.
Okay, so we do have access right now without anything concrete governing over staff
Without a
or
district,
student
yeah.
use. I suggest we move on that then as quickly as possible.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Creer. Do you want to move right into special education and student services?
I have no report at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? All right. Support services, Mr. Allen.
No report.
Thank you, sir. Finance, Mrs. Sharp.
No formal report. I will say that my understanding is that the search process has begun for the what is currently the Director of Finance, which after tonight's action may become the Manager of Finance position. And at this point in time, it has been in the hands of Dr. Bose and with the assistance of Deloitte & Touche, I assume. And the application process has closed as far as the deadline has been concerned. I believe the public and the board should have an update on that, on exactly where that's standing. So I would ask at some point, after I've concluded my report, if we could be brought up to date on that, as well as when we could expect the final report from Deloitte & Touche. On a sad note, I'm going to take advantage of board privilege also here to extend my condolences, my deep sorrow to the family of Bill Spire. As you all know, Bill Spire was an invaluable help to us in his assistance as on the finance planning committee for the strategic plan. I believe I could say I don't believe there's anyone on the committee who would disagree that Bill's expertise, his willingness to devote his time and energy and to take the task at hand very seriously is what enabled us to be able to bring to the board the level of detail and product that we did. And I'd just like to let his wife and his family know that my prayers and my condolences are with them, both to Connie and his children, Billy, Jackie, and Kelly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Sharp. Any questions of Mrs. Sharp? Personnel, Don Hill is not here, and I have no report to provide other than that many personnel actions will be realized as we proceed with the balance of the evening under actions. Legislative, Mrs. Sharp.
No report, Mrs. Krieger, from the monthly meeting.
Okay, technology, Mr. Weitz.
No report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? High school expansion, Mr. Mosey.
No report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Board. North Monco Technical Career Center, Mr. Allen or Mr. Mosey?
I just have something about the building project.
It's a mess over there.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's like Beirut to walk inside. Just two issues. One is as they were digging the foundation for the addition, they did find some water that was not planned on, so we had to add a little change order for some drainage. And for the renovation of the existing building, they found what they believe had been a fire at one time within one of the wires from the transformer to the main switchgear, so they have to replace the wires, which again will be a change order. But other than that, they still expect the new building to be done by October. The renovations is going to be tricky. They are always a mess, and I only inform them from our experience here, be prepared to work Labor Day weekend.
There you go.
They're on notice.
Sage advice, and I'm sure
End of report.
you got that from Art Wood.
Yes, they did.
So you're telling us that VOTEC has found water in the middle of the drought?
Yes, they did.
Is it no water?
No.
No, they found a seepage in one of the, they broke out one of the corners of the building, and they hit a spring. The water just keeps seeping up, so they felt that they
It's
didn't
like water
correct it.
nowhere, you know?
Yeah, just came out of nowhere.
Okay. Merck Science Partnership, Mr. White.
No report.
Thank you, sir. Long-range planning, I have no report either. Meet and discuss. And municipal relations are Don Hill. Is there anybody prepared to report on either?
Could I just comment on the memo or the letter that we did receive from Dr. Bose on long-range planning? I just thought it was interesting. I don't have the letter in front of me, but thought it was worth to note that the last sentence or two of that letter that was written to us from our current Secretary of Education, I believe was stated something to the effect of, while I do believe long-range and strategic planning is good for any organization, then it went on to say something to the effect of it's basically dead in the state of Pennsylvania. I mean,
Contradicted itself.
yeah.
From planning to assessment. Dr. Bose, why don't you elaborate on that letter? You're most intimate with it.
Well, the board members are talking about a letter received by all Pennsylvania school superintendents from Secretary Hitchcock announcing that the state requirements adopted by the State Board of Education requiring a long-range plan or a strategic plan have been eliminated. The letter went on to say that the Secretary believes that long-range planning is good and businesses and governmental organizations participate in it and should continue to do it because it's a good exercise. But the state requirement has been lifted. He also went on to say that much of the state's energies now will be placed into developing the standards and an assessment program that will measure progress toward achieving the standards.
Dr. Bose, in your experience, have we come full cycle now?
I think Pennsylvania is now lining up behind what the rest of most of the other states have done, Mr. Mosey, and that is prepare to adopt a very strong state test that measures. It says high standards. I believe there'll be minimum competencies. If you measure the high, it becomes the minimum. Because if you don't pass the high, you didn't pass the test.
Right.
I think that's going to happen in Pennsylvania. It's not unlike what's already happened in New Jersey, most of the Midwest, and it's now happening on the West Coast as well, and in the South. It's a national trend, and it's based upon, I think it's a healthy thing, and citizens ought to appreciate the fact that schools are going to become now more accountable probably than they've ever been, because the accountability will be based upon results.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just have one question. Is there any way that we can apply for a reimbursement on the expenses that we incurred during the long-range planning process?
That's what it's going to look like.
There you go.
Well, that's what I'd like to know as the rest of the process continues. You know, we heard all this talk about midterm evaluations. Is the strategic plan in Harrisburg basically fuel for a fireplace at this point in time?
Well,
Pretty much.
that's a good question. Mrs. Shear, you may be as likely as anybody else to predict what might happen. Obviously, the size of the Department of Education in terms of a monitoring agency is not the same as it was. And I'm not sure that I know the answer to your question if it's what will happen to all those reports.
Okay, as to whether or not those bodies that were supposed to exist for the checks and balances for all the different districts according to their different phases is even going to continue, or if it's eliminated?
We will not be, no district will be monitored.
No district will.
No district will be monitored.
I think the irony is that many members of the community were afraid that this conservative board was going to put the strategic plan on the shelf, and they probably never thought it would be done by the governor and not this board. So, anybody else, please? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, audience and citizens, this is your time. If you'd step forward, please, name and address, and take as much as 5 minutes if you wish.
Good evening. H. Bruce Gordon, 419 South Stone Ridge, Lansdale. Thank you for sharing the air conditioning tonight. It is very comfortable in here. I find it kind of interesting that we're talking about having a technology curriculum in place when, in fact, some of our schools don't even have computers capable of running software that provides for sound educational enrichment. On a slightly related issue, nor do I think we'll have a year 2000 problem with our computers in the school, because I don't think we're going to have many computers that are going to make it that far. This board needs to get moving on the technology issue before our children are left in the dust. The longer we wait, sure, the computers will be cheaper, the cost will be less to buy them, but the cost to implement the infrastructure required by our school buildings is not getting any cheaper. It's getting more expensive, and we have a lot of buildings in this school district that will require wiring and internet access and all that other kind of infrastructure costs, and those costs are not getting cheaper by the day, despite the cost of the PC computer power. Thank you.
Anybody else, please? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Rukowski.
Jen Yolkowski, Townmenson Township. I'm very concerned about the fact that it was not until 11 or 11:30 at the meeting on June 30th that we realized that the Pentimation bid did not fall under the state contract with Pentimation, and therefore we could not award it. I'm concerned because the board, who all of you are very busy people, had spent several hours listening to the presentation up until that time, as did the public, and there also had been several other evenings of discussion, at least in part, on the Pentimation computers. And I'm wondering who it was who led us to believe that we didn't need to bid this. If Pentimation deceived us, then I don't think we should be doing business with them at all. I'm concerned if it was a member of the administration who overlooked this, or just who it was, and I would like an answer to this question.
I don't think there's an answer as to who deceived us. I think it's unfortunate that it happened, and I know that there are people that wished to have voted for it that night and couldn't do it, so they were disappointed. And those of us that have been wishing for more competition were disappointed it took that late to find out. I don't think there's a willful act of deceit on anybody's part. Misunderstandings, yes. Dropping the ball, screwing up, yes. But I don't think there's any willful deceit that I can find.
Deceit may be too strong a term. But I am concerned if somebody was aware and was just, overlooking the necessity for bids. This is a several $100,000 contract, and I also was concerned when someone else at this podium said that we had not bid insurance. And I hope that in the future we bid wherever possible, even if the amounts are under $10,000, which of course is the level beyond which legally they must be bid. And I think it should be more than a matter of legality. It's a matter of doing what's right for the students and the taxpayers of this district, and what's fair to the businesses out there that wish to do businesses with North Penn.
Well, Mrs. Walkowski, as you well know, anytime there are mistakes or screw-ups or faux pas of any sort that involve our personnel, it is a matter of personnel. The other night was very, very, very unfortunate, and where correction needed to be made by the superintendent. He did make that to the right parties, and any legal reprimands that were needed were made by Solicitor Bartle. So all personnel that had to be addressed and asked to be accountable for this specific situation have been talked to by the right authorities and the right parties.
Okay, well, my concern is solely that things are done properly. It's not a matter of reprimands, but I just hope that our staff is more careful in the future, and that we're more careful as far as, who we're dealing with, that they're above board with us as well. The other item I want to get back to is the dropout rate. And I would like to again propose, as I did some months ago, that we set up a committee to see what the problems are. And I would suggest that perhaps, if it can be done legally as far as the privacy rights of the students, that perhaps some volunteer work could be done with the students who are dropout potentials from the community at large. People, say, in the ministerium who perhaps work as psychologists or in some field of counseling, perhaps retired teachers who could provide tutoring on a one-to-one basis where necessary. We have 13 elementary schools that are open every evening until 6 o'clock for base. Perhaps one or more of those buildings could be used where people could meet. I believe there are some Saturday art classes, and I'm not sure if there's still Saturday detention classes where perhaps those same buildings could be utilized so we wouldn't have to open additional buildings. But I think this problem really needs an all-out effort at this point, and there certainly are many, many people out in the community who are retired right from this district and perhaps would be willing to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connell.
Ms. Bingle, I just feel compelled to set the record straight as it relates to insurance. We have added an additional property in the 4-H property. We've added additional vehicles, and we did quote our insurance this year, and our rate this year is $75,000 less than last year. So I just want to be sure that the board understands that we did quote insurance.
Okay, well, more than wanting the board to understand, Mrs. Hatfield, I want you to take specific note of that for the public record, that Mr. Wood brought that to our attention. Mr. Wood, if you would repeat that as a statement of fact.
Yes, we've added the 4-H property to our insurance policy, which is an additional property to be insured. We've added, as you know, 7 new buses and 5 new vans, and we have decreased our insurance cost by $75,000 as compared to last school year.
Because of the bid process.
We did quote. We did not bid. It's a professional service, and we did quote.
May I speak about the dropout concern? I think we need to put this issue in a proper perspective. Whether or not this community has a dropout problem remains to be seen. But the facts are, Pennsylvania and Nebraska are ranked the 3rd lowest states in the country with a dropout rate. North Penn's dropout rate is way below the Pennsylvania average. Now, I'll be the first to say that any time a child drops out of school and doesn't complete school, that's a tragedy. It's not necessarily a conclusive tragedy. There's a very good program of Second Chance in which this school district participates through North Monco Vocational Technical School. There's a GED program, and a lot of people return to school eventually. But to suggest that we understand the complete complexity of this problem across the spectrum, I know of 2 young people that dropped out of school because their father died. They dropped out of school to work to help their mother rear the rest of the family. Now, to suggest that that's a reflection on North Penn schools because these young people made a traumatic and difficult decision during a trying family crisis does a disservice to the whole concept. Listen to the facts. They're published by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. Pennsylvania is the 3rd lowest, tied with Nebraska in high school dropout rates of the 50 states. North Penn is below the Pennsylvania rate. So while we should never be satisfied with a rate that good, I don't want anybody to assume the impression that there's a dire problem here. I'm sorry, but in the course of human events, some people do drop out. And sometimes dropping out is the only way you learn that you need to drop back in. Failure is not a totally bad experience. Sometimes the best people learn best by failing first. So I wish that we look at this whole matter of the dropout issue and determine, is it a plague, is it a cancer, or is it considering our relationship to the nation and to our own state far better than the rest. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else, please? Yes, Mrs. Heinrich.
Vivian Heinrich. I believe on Montgomeryville. I believe the June 30th meeting, I stepped out after the audience of citizens, but there was a question that I had posed as to when the next discussion on technology was going to occur. I thought it was set for tonight, July 17th, possibly August the 12th, and I was wondering when that's going to actually be taking place.
Well, what happened after you had stepped out, after the audience of citizens, is that there was a breakdown on what was carried under state bid on the Penimation program and what was not. And after a 50-minute executive session where, not executive session, a 50-minute recess where Solicitor Bartle had to research the facts of the Penimation proposal, we came back, it was pulled from the table, so we're going to have to return back to Penimation again. There is the possibility that that will be done on August 12th, and the board felt that that piece has to be out of the way before we then come forward with technology, resume the technology program with students and curriculum.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else, please? Yes, ma'am.
Elaine Moran, Upper Gwinnett. I also am very confused on why time has been spent researching technology curriculum and not that time being used to research the technology bid that has been placed before you. In order to vote for the hardware, which is needed to be placed in front of these students, you don't need a curriculum. These kids can't work with the curriculum if there's no technology that's going to be voted for.
Mrs. Moran, I believe what the effort that Mrs. Krieger, Mrs. Heinrich, and Dr. Hassler have put forward is certainly obviously volunteerism hours on the part of both of these ladies. And what they were doing was collaborating on what do we have in various schools and what is out in various school districts. It was private research on their part. It was not research conducted by the Technology Committee, which sits Mr. White's, Clemens, Hill, and Mosey. This was done on their own time, and they were reporting. Plus, Mrs. Krieger holds a considerable liaisonship underneath K through 12 curriculum. It's part of her curriculum committee duties.
I understand that, but I don't understand if the board keeps putting off the technology vote because they don't understand parts of it or they want to research it more, which has been stated by many board members.
No, that's not the case. That delay was caused by the Penimation proposal falling flat on its face as far as its legal right to move ahead because it did not go through a proper bid process.
Okay, well, before that last minute, snaz or whatever, the board had dragged its feet for a very long time.
I disagree.
And that's
absolutely disagree. This board has settled a teacher's contract.
I'm talking about technology.
I can go on and on.
And I'm talking about technology. The technology has been placed before you since before January. I sat
You're
here to board.
absolutely wrong that we were dragging our feet. This board meets frequently. The minutes show how many public meetings there have been. There has been committee meetings. There's a lot of work being done, and everybody sitting here is a volunteer.
And every time that was up for a vote, it has been put off because everybody wanted more research.
It has not been brought up for a vote. You are incorrect.
Every time it was put up for more discussion, it has been put off by many board members. And that's my only concern is my concern is that the technology, the curriculum can't be there if the hardware is not there. And I would urge you to at least try to get the hardware in first because the kids have nothing to work with.
That is really an unjust statement to make. Okay, it truly, truly is. And I find it, quite frankly, I'm offended by it because that is just not the case. Sure, we do not have state-of-the-art tech labs in every single school. But we do have very good equipment in this school district that our children are using. Now, it may not be what you as an individual parent would like to see, but what we must consider as a board is, the very first question is, what do we want technology to do for our children? It sounds to me, and I could be wrong, Mrs. Moran, that you are of the belief that perhaps the board should just throw a price tag, sign a blank check, to the issue of technology. Quite frankly, I don't think that's the right way to do it.
That's not what I said. I never inferred
apologize if
that.
that is not what you're inferring, but that is
All I infer
that is what I'm hearing. So you will have to please give us the opportunity to do this job and to do it right and for what's best for the kids first. That's what my intent is. I have 2 children in this school district, and I would like nothing more than to have my 2 children proficient at computer technology. It is a tool for education that I never had. I learned how to type on a typewriter. It goes a little bit beyond that, and this board knows that. But we want to make the best investment that we can for all the children in the school district, and we must go about it in an organized, thoughtful fashion in order to do what's right and what's best for the children.
Okay,
it may not be as quickly as you would like us to do, but we are moving. This is not a heel-dragging board, and I would ask for a little more patience.
Okay, most of us have tried. Okay, and all I'm asking is that you would please move forward on the hardware. I'm not asking you, and I never mentioned, to throw out a blank check and spend whatever it takes. This district is substandard by most districts surrounding us, and I have been told that by teachers and administrators in other school districts. We need the hardware and then the curriculum.
Other school districts?
Yes.
How does an administrator in another school district know what we're doing here? This really is a futile argument.
All right, ladies.
I didn't mean to argue. I didn't come up here to argue with you. All I asked was that if the same time be put into researching the hardware and putting the hardware in and making sure that's done, and then the curriculum will follow. And I'm thrilled that you're following up on curriculum. That I'm not saying that that's wrong.
As a parent, don't you also want to know what software we're going to put on there too? Or do you just want the equipment?
Mrs. Krieger.
Just throw the blank check at it.
Okay, I guess that's what you wanted.
Okay, anybody else, please? Yes, Mrs. Dorsey.
Lordy. I might have to take a break.
Marla Darcy, Upper Gwynedd. A couple of points. First of all, I'd like to tell Dr. Burke-Stevenson that she'll be sorely missed by the parents at Gwynedd Square. She's been a tremendous asset to this district, and our severe loss is the gain of New Hope School District, where she now has the superintendency. She made Gwynedd Square into a real family place from its opening in 1991 on, and we understand why she would leave, but we're very, very sorry and heartbroken to see her go, and we wish her, and I'm speaking on behalf of most of the parents from Gwynedd Square, we wish her great luck in her new position. Also, on another note, I just wanted to say how impressed I am with the Marching Knights organization. I'd always heard how wonderful it is, but now having one of my children involved in it, I'm seeing firsthand at what an unbelievable organization it is, and I guess that credit goes to Mr. Heller for that and all the people involved, right down through the students who help run it. Getting to the third point for technology. In order to avoid any debate or people making accusations at each other, I'm going to suggest that we all do something. The Pennsylvania State has a website. On that website, they list all of the scores for the PSSA exam, but they also list a lot more information. One of the things they list in very specific detail is all the school districts and exactly what they have in terms of hardware and software. So no one needs to take anybody's word for it. All I'm asking is that the board members and all people sitting at the dais and all the community members, please go to the Pennsylvania website, which is our state's website, and look up what our district has and look up what our neighboring districts have, and then you will see what the truth is, and then you can draw your own conclusions. Until that point, I don't think anybody should speak any further about how lucky we are to have what we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, please? Mrs. Heinrich.
I'm going to speak in the capacity as a volunteer coordinator, and I wanted to mention that although I don't feel we have the computers that we need at this time, my volunteers and my teachers that I am working with want to have some sort of direction as to what to do with the computers that they have in their classroom or available to them, not necessarily in their classroom. And so when I started trying to find out what other elementary schools were doing, it first arose because my school, the school that my son attends, where I am volunteering, those parents that were working and the teachers wanted information as to what they could do, and so that's where my research began, was so that I could find out what we were doing and find out what others were doing and do a comparison based on that. This putting together a curriculum for technology would start with what we have today to give direction to those teachers and our volunteers, and we have as many volunteers as we can get, and anybody that's interested, I would be willing to stand here with a pen and take your name, because we could use a lot more on there. But nonetheless, what I want to say is that the technology, the computers, we do need, but we also need the direction for it. And if you have any questions, because I'm not sure if I made myself clear.
That's very good. Thank you, Mrs. Ryan. Anybody else, please? Okay, one more time. Nice call. Okay, Dr. Bose, if you would.
I recommend the board approve a $1,000 stipend to Lita Thompson for the completion of her doctoral degree per administration compensation plan previously adopted by the board, and to also publicly congratulate Lita, who will now refer to as Dr. Thompson.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Krieger, second by Mosey. Any questions to the right going around? Mr. Schoen. Left? Congratulations to Dr. Lita Thompson.
Can I, it's Mr. Schilling specifically, so I didn't know.
All right, well, we were just doing this
Okay,
quickly. Go ahead,
quickly,
Mr.
could you
Schilling.
just, is it okay to ask exactly what her doctorate was received in, the subject matter?
School administration.
School administration.
Any further questions? All in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Yeah, Doctor.
Recommend the board accept the gifts as noted on the agenda for Inglewood and Montgomery schools and enable us to thank the generous contributors.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Schilling, second by Woods. Questions to the left?
Just a note for the board's information, the home and school donation from Montgomery on the AV equipment and technology. I'd like to thank them very much. However, in regards to technology, Dr. Hassler is going to be issuing a memo to the different schools to tell them just to hold off on purchasing any software at the present time. Most of them, though, are coordinated with the type of equipment, if they're buying equipment, that the district recommends for them to purchase. But if there is software ideas, Dr. Hassler is asking them just to hold off for just a little while until we can complete the curriculum component.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Just so there might not be any misunderstanding of that. There will be, we have software already available, so the computers aren't going to be sitting there just...
Any new
like
software.
They're simply going to be, you're just asking that they make use of what we have in-house right now, in the meantime, while we decide on what new purchases
And
we
we're
might
trying to
do
coordinate it
this.
from building to building.
Right.
Okay. So that'd be good.
Okay. All in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
Recommend the board approve the listed bid items running the gamut from foodstuffs to and including the addendum on DA2 PA system for Glenmore Elementary School.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Schilling, second by Mosey. Questions to the left, starting with Mosey?
I have a comment that I'd just like to make for the board. Temporary electric and site lighting, as well as PA intercom, are both bond purchases. The temporary lighting and electrical service will be the construction service that will be brought in at the high school, so it's part of the renovation. And the finance committee, as we were looking at major purchases in the budget, we took the tanks as well as the PA intercom out of the budget and agreed that it would be a bond purchase. So I just want to clarify that going in.
There's a PA system.
PA and intercom at Gwyn Nor, replacement. We had a budget initially of $26,000. We were fortunate enough to receive 2 bids, with the low bid being $18,900. That's going to be bond. That's going to be bond.
That's the wiring. That's including
console
wiring.
and the wiring and individual handset telephones in each classroom.
All right, when you discuss this, Mr. Tracy and
Wait, hold it. Let me finish down the aisle here. We'll get questions around, or you'll probably be fielding most of them. Mr. Mosey, were you finished with questions?
I have no questions.
Mrs. Krieger?
Does this constitute infrastructure?
Mr. White?
This constitutes something that will have a 4-year life and something that we agreed as a finance committee should be an expenditure because of its lifespan and because it becomes part of the building. I mean, it's a combination. The wiring is in the building. The console stands free. The handsets in each classroom hang up on cradles. So it's a total working system.
Okay, what was the lifespan again? I just want to make sure I heard that.
40 years.
40? 40? 40?
Yeah.
40.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Allen?
No.
Ms. White?
That was the point I was going to ask Mr. Wood to please clarify and repeat for the board's benefit. Was the lifespan that he and Mr. Tracy determined for that equipment prior to that? Also, this also left room for a shift of some items that were intended to come out of bond money, which we as a committee did not agree were appropriate. So
Was
it was
this
a
one of
swap
them?
of funding. Yes.
Was this one of them?
The 40-year lifespan, yes. The
felt it was
difficulty we have is
appropriate?
those that are, where we're dealing with monies that are shorter lifetime than the item.
Thank you.
Mr. Schilling?
No question.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those would say nay. Thank you.
Next, I'm recommending that the board consider my proposal to revise the administrative staff organization effective immediately, and let me review for the board and for our guests what's being proposed here. Obviously, we're aware there's been some significant turnover in key staff that presents both a problem as well as an opportunity. This superintendent, and I believe the board he serves, is interested in downsizing the administration whenever the opportunity presents itself, but also considering the effectiveness on the total school district and the matter of efficiency as well as economy. And so I propose that, as I earlier commented, as the state's attitude has changed from a focus on strategic planning to now what will become a focus on assessment or increased testing, and the development of an accountability system that will compare Pennsylvania schools to each other and conceivably to other states as well. I'm suggesting that the planning part of the position vacated by Sandra Mangano be devoted to assessment. And I'm suggesting that that operation be entitled Director of Assessment and Staff Development, and what used to be Director of Planning and Staff Development. I'm suggesting that the responsibility for testing move from the Director of Student Services and Special Ed to the position of Director of Assessment and Staff Development for the same reason. I'm suggesting the movement of the responsibility for English as a second language instruction from the Director of Student Services to the Language Arts and Reading Supervisor. And I'm suggesting with the retirement, we phase out the 712 responsibility for language arts and provide for that responsibility to be assumed by a language arts and reading supervisor, so all language arts fall under the supervision of one individual. And language arts, as you think about it, is in fact all that has to do with the development of written and verbal communication skills, reading, writing, vocabulary, spelling, that the language arts that we all associate from our own school experience would now become part of one operation. I've estimated some and tried to provide the board and the public an analysis of the cost of this and an estimate of what compensation might result as a conclusion of the change and the replacement of individuals or the changes in jobs or the employment of new individuals. And roughly, I've shown and expect that this savings could be approximately $98,000. With some other changes to be considered later on, this whole package could result in a savings on an annual operating cost basis of approximately $100,000. And so, prepared to answer your questions, I am recommending that you approve the revised revisions proposed to the administrative organization effective immediately, and that you act on that tonight. Thank you.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Motion by White, second by Schilling. Board questions to the right. Mr. Schilling.
No question.
Mrs. Sharp.
Dr. Bose, what will happen with the tech prep responsibilities of CKU?
I think they would move into the role of the principals interacting with the assistant superintendent. That, for the most part, Mrs. Shear, as I looked at it, was primarily a caretaker for grants, which have now been exhausted and which will not be renewed.
Essentially, so you do not foresee any later positions being filled for the tech prep component?
That's correct.
Okay, I don't see the organization chart listed here. So in place of this is a sheet that's new to me, as opposed to the organization chart that I received in my packet.
That has not changed.
Okay.
This was prepared, Mrs. Shear, for public presentation, trying to summarize it and make it more concise. The full detail which you've received previously has not changed.
Okay. And evaluating that, do I still see a 3-tier cabinet, or yourself, and then 2 tiers cabinet level?
No, one cabinet. One cabinet. Now, there still are the assistant superintendent and the executive directors and the directors.
And then there's below.
But that's the cabinet, what I just mentioned.
But they are in 2 tiers, are they not? According to this organizational chart, they are still in 2 tiers.
If you want to call those tiers, I wouldn't argue with you.
My only concern regarding this is that we one time had a business manager and a director of finance. That was Mr. Starkey and Mr. Jacobs at the time. And I know you've heard from me in various reports how I felt that the finance department was underserved. And my convictions regarding the chief financial officer being considered a very relevant part. And in fact, I consider them on the same level with our chief educational officer. And I have long time, without any bodies or persons attached to this concern, always believed that the chief financial officer should have a direct accountability to the board, and it is one of the few recognized positions within the school code in which it is specifically addressed as an appointee, potential appointee of the board. And I feel very strongly regarding that philosophy, so I just think that needs to be said one more time. Thank you.
No questions.
Mr. Clemens.
Questions?
No questions.
Mrs. Green.
I just have a question for Mrs. Shear, and maybe for you, Mrs. Mangle. I believe that we were told that Deloitte & Touche would be making some initial recommendations to the board on numerous candidates that they screened initially for us. And it was my understanding that a board committee had been established by you for the purpose of further interviewing of those initial candidates. Could you give us a status on where we're at with that?
Yes, that'll be announced later in the agenda.
Oh, okay.
There's appointments to be made.
The appointments
Appointments for what?
For what? I thought you already pointed that.
If I
Go
may
ahead.
try to help you, you might recall the executive session where this was discussed. In the preparation to include the advice of Deloitte and Touche in screening from the perspective of certified public accountants and auditors, what they thought would be highly talented people interested in this kind of work. And at that time, the board asked me about the selection process and could some board members be seated on that. And I said, of course. Ms. Mangle suggested that it be the board's finance committee plus Mr. Allen.
Right.
Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
And that
Okay, well, under
that
other
will be
business
done.
is president's appointments. And there's a number of committees. The Merit Performance Committee for the association, one for the MPAA, and then there's this Support Staff Compensation Committee that went out.
I'm sorry, but I wouldn't have any way of knowing what that was just by the way my agenda reads, Ms. Mingles. So that's why I asked the question.
Any further questions? Mr. Mosher?
I just feel that I'm in agreement with Mrs. Shear. I feel that looking at the table of organization, I'm not satisfied with the position of the manager of finance. I feel that they should be directly answerable to the superintendent or to the school board of directors. I feel that that's, in most corporations, that is probably the second most important position, and I feel that we're a big corporation with a $112 million budget. We're not a small company. And I don't have a problem with the rest of the reorganization, but I would like an assurance from Dr. Bose that we're going to have, from what I understand, we have quite a few applicants already for this position. And I personally think that we should get a very sharp individual. I would not like to wait a year or 2 years to see that position elevated or changed. If I give my vote for this tonight, and we see someone who is sharp and who really can handle that department and do the job we expect, then I would like an assurance from you that perhaps in a shorter period of time, 4, 6, or 7 months down the road, we will see a reorganization and that person elevated to the position that I think he should have.
Mr. Mosher, you have my assurance. I would not hesitate to move that up quicker and bring it to your attention when I felt it was appropriate and felt secure and confirmed to you we had such an individual.
Thank you.
Ms. May, I did have one more question. Dr. Bose, just to clarify again for me, please, in the draft job description for the manager of financial affairs, the current draft reads that this person would be accountable to the executive director of support services. However, in the current job description, it says that they would be accountable directly to you. Which is it, and which are you prepared to offer as final language?
Would be revised and updated to reflect the conversations we've had, and I assure you it will be reporting to the superintendent and the executive director.
Any further questions? All in favor would say aye. Aye. Opposed would say nay.
Nay.
Roll call. Mrs. Hatfield.
Allen?
Yes.
Clemens?
Yes.
Hill? Oh, he's not here. Krieger, yes. I'm sorry, Krieger?
That's fine, Dottie.
You're doing fine.
Posey?
Yes.
Shear?
Nay.
Schilling?
Yes.
Weiss?
Yes.
Mangle?
Yes.
7 yeses and 1 no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Doctor.
I could ask the board to consider moving all the personnel as one item with the following exceptions, which are a result of our interest in confirming the accuracy of the data and correcting if it's incorrect, and bringing it to you if to be corrected at a subsequent meeting. And those two items are E, position change, and F, salary corrections. So I do recommend that you consider the nominations, the retirements, the resignations, a change of status, and salary changes as one item. If you're going to do that, I would also point out what's already been noted, that this includes the resignation of Dr. Barbara Burke-Stevenson. I'd like to make that recommendation as well with regret, but to congratulate her on her opportunity to serve as a superintendent of schools, and wonder why she'd want to do that.
Now, Dr.
Is there a motion for?
So moved.
Okay, motion by White, second by Mr. Schilling? Okay. Board questions to the left, Mr. Moser.
I just want to understand, Dr. Bose, all the salary on BA 7, BA 8, and BA 9, you're making with one motion?
And BA 10.
I'm excluding E and F
From the agenda.
from the
From
agenda.
the agenda.
You're excluding...
Those are both on pages 9 and 10.
B. Where's B?
Okay, the salary correction you're excluding, and you're excluding retirement?
No, E,
Position change. Just one position.
Yeah, I am too. I see F, but I...
This is a change.
BA 9 is where it starts.
Okay.
Position change.
pages 9 and 10.
Carol Swively, you're taking as well? All right. I would also, Madam President, on support staff, the appointment of Robert Gilmore for TV specialist, I would like that
Pulled separately?
pulled separately if we could, please, because it came up in a liaison meeting I had with Mr. Weir and Ms. Tatum. It also came up during the budget process. And I asked him on both occasions that he give me in writing why he feels that we should have another position, another person, and two people holding the same position in the school district.
Okay.
This is not CBS or NBC or CNN, and I'd like to know why we have to have two people in that position.
Okay, well, under nominations, there was a motion and a second to combine them all together. Mr. White, you made the motion. Mr. Schilling, you made the second. Would you both be willing to amend? And let's get back to the beginning to nominations. Let me pull Mr. Gilmer. We do everybody else under nominations only, and then we'll do a separate vote for Mr. Gilmer.
And we're not voting on retirements or salaries.
Now, let's just do nominations at this point.
Go ahead.
I'm seeking a motion that nomination category A on BA 8 include all listed with the exception of Mr. Robert Gilmer. I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Krieger, second by Schilling. Any other questions?
Comment, please, regarding the resignation of Dr. Burke-Stevenson. As a parent of students, two children that have gone through, one who will still continue at Gwynedd Square Elementary, I'd like to say that she'll be missed very much by me. Dr. Burke-Stevenson rose to the challenge in 1991 when we opened that school, and when several feeder schools and different parents who all were, many of whom were active in their own schools and had a different, brought with them different ideas that they, of course, wanted to bring from their original home school, and brought that school community together to come to a consensus of which ideas from the various different schools that we're now feeding into that one would prevail. And it was a difficult task because everyone wanted to bring the remnants of the past. And she did an excellent job of that. And I will say that there's a very friendly atmosphere at Gwynedd Square, and I give her a lot of credit for making that school a happy place to visit and a place where parents, from my experience at least, I would say, could feel very welcome, and also in the service that she's given to my children there and how it's shown through her staff. And I'd like to wish her well and offer my congratulations to her. It shall be a loss for the district.
Any other comments or questions under nominations?
I would just like to thank Dr. Miller, looking over this list and reading the different attributes and qualities of these new employees that you recommend to us is quite impressive. I know some of the people on the list through the voice of parents who have called me numerous times in regards to many of these individuals who have served in the substitute status for us in the past. And I'm just very thrilled with each and every person that I see on the list, and I thank you, and I wish each and every one of them welcome. And I thank you, because I know that this has been a lot of work for you, but you've done it well, and I am very pleased, and I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you, Mrs. Krieger. All the people that are on this agenda and on previous agendas, and we certainly hope in agendas to come, are going to serve the students of our school district for a very long time, and we're very proud to nominate them tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Anybody else, please? There's a motion, a second on the floor. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed would say nay. Thank you. I need a motion to nominate Mr. Robert Gilmer as TV specialist for $35,000 a year as a salary effective 8/18/97. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Allen, second by Weiss. Board questions to the right, Mr. Schoen. Around? To the left? I'm sorry, Mr. Allen.
I want to just confirm, we did have a discussion on this position during the budget, and it is in the budget, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't recall an actual discussion on this particular position. I know it was in the budget. I know that that numerous board members asked for clarification as far as the actual job duties. I guess the first thing that I was interested in seeing was the increase in the agenda for the TV specialists. What was planned in the future for them to cover.
What the enhancements would look like.
Right. There has to be a program, I believe, or maybe I'm wrong, that there should be a program in place first, or some kind of an idea of what you want to do first before you hire the person to come in and do it. I understand that this individual has worked here before, but I also recall that he didn't leave all that long ago. I don't see an increase in just the last 18 months of anything in particular. Maybe I'm wrong, but I could be wrong because nobody has told me what new things this department is actually going to be doing, or what they've been doing in the past 18 months, which requires us to hire somebody else. So I do not, this is not about the individual, this is about the position and a lack of clarification for me personally, so that's why I can't support it at this time.
Okay. Mr. Murphy, anything?
My comments are the same. I asked for documentation, and was told I would get it as a member of the Finance Committee, and I still have not seen it. And I don't understand why we're hiring another person to do the same job, and I still see the same repeats and the same blue screen. We had a meeting, you, Mr. Hill, and myself in November. We've been asking for November for an enhancement. We haven't seen it. I haven't seen any schedule, what they plan to do or what they want to do to increase the transmission on Channel 16. And until I see that, I can't vote for this. This is blatant expenditure of taxpayers' money.
Can this be delayed until some questions are answered?
There's a motion on the floor.
Yeah, there's a motion on the floor, so it's either going to pass by 5 votes or it's going to fall 4-4.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
you called on Mr. Schilling. I was looking down at my papers, I'm sorry, and then it bypassed. I do need to make some qualifying comments because of my vote, and that regards, particularly because it is Bob Gilmer. I was here when he was servicing this district. He did an excellent job. I was sorry to see him leave. I believe it was just January of this past school year that his position was now filled by another person. We also have added Mr. Pettin for part of his time under his AV responsibilities. I think it's important for everyone to know that if I believed that we were in need, not in want of, but in need of another TV specialist, I would certainly support Bob Gilmer to fill that position. And unfortunately, we sit up here and this is not where we can get down to the personal levels of wants or wishes. And we have to make objective decisions as we make these decisions on behalf of the general public. And I will say, if those of you who believe that this position is needed, certainly do not construe my vote as any level of concern or negative impact on Bob Gilmer. He'd certainly be an excellent choice. As I said, I regretted him leaving.
Dr. Bose wishes some clarification, and then Mr.
I have.
You too? Okay. And Mr. Schilling, I did not give you a full answer according to the solicitor, and that is if anybody wishes to place another motion on the table to remove the motion. Is that correct?
A motion to table. The question, as I understood by Mr. Schilling, is whether it could be laid. That's one of the motions that's available to you.
I want to make a motion to delay until we have more information.
May I try to provide that explanation?
And I want Mr. Allen to come back. We'll wait till all the comments are made.
Okay.
There's a motion. Can you table a motion?
Let me go back to Bill Allen as board member, and then Dr. Bose will give you the final word.
I don't think that we have to remember, we don't need this person. We don't need any of this. All of this is something we choose to do. To have the cameras here, to have the cameras at the sports events, the bands, the plays, when the 6-year-olds are doing their chorus. We choose to do that. I'm not saying that we need to do this. We are trying to enhance the program. We're trying to make it more accessible to the public, showing them more things that go on. I know from my working with the policy committee last year, or 2 years ago, whatever it was, that Mr. Gilmer, when he was in this position, was overworked. He could not do all the things that were asked of him. Now, if we don't want him to do more, then we should not fill this position. This is our decision, and I don't want anybody thinking that we have to have this. Do we want to make it a better program? Do we want to show more things to the public? Do we want to get more children on TV? Then we do it. But if we're going to do it, the one person cannot do it. This is the point I'm trying to make. It is a volunteer thing we do. Again, we can say we can eliminate the whole budget for TV right now if we wish. But if we want to do it and we want to do it better, then we have to hire somebody else, because there are too many events, there are too many buildings, and there are too many hours where things can be taped that we will not get to if we don't hire a second person. Thank you.
My understanding of the discussion, Mrs. Krieger will get people that haven't spoken yet. My understanding of the discussion, or at least the prepared statements made by Mr. Weir at the time that this came up at budget time, was that there remains a gaping hole in terms of need. We have 17 buildings that have plays and concerts and special events and activities, and not only are we not making as many of these as we wish to, and fairly across this district, on all levels from K through 12, there seems to be a predominance of high school activities more times than not on the television than there are elementary. And it all comes down to time. It all comes down to fairness. It was also mentioned at that time that Miss Fakish is absolutely overworked in that she is spending far more time taping these special activities at all of these schools, involving these young students on the cameras and Mr. Patton on time that she's not being paid for. That after hours, we are, unfortunately, so many of the activities also that we have to tape are not during the school day or working day of Ms. Fakish or Mr. Patton, et cetera, but that they're in the evenings, from athletic events to school plays to concerts. When do we go? We go at 7:30 at night. So this is after their day. So my understanding is that Mr. Gilmer, with his expertise, not only in being able to enhance and flesh out more, to provide more, because we all agree that we're all shocked at how much people out there are watching this channel. It never ceases to amaze me that anybody can watch a board meeting from 7:30 till 12 o'clock at night, but they do. And so you know that many more want to watch their kids or their grandchildren. But Mr. Gilmer, even in the opinion of Ms. Fakish, is absolutely superb in his ability to troubleshoot. You know, we get complaints about the sound, the clarity, the this, the that, and there has been nobody as good as Mr. Gilmer to correct those things, and Ms. Fakish, I'm sure, is willing to admit to that also. So, aside from enhancement, fleshing out that blue scroll was also the troubleshooting and the technical corrections he is able to make as part of his expertise.
So what you're saying is we're going to view more sports activities, more plays, because of his assistance?
More of everything, more on-site interviews, more updates.
Dr. Bozer, is that what you were going to say?
That's exactly what I was going to say. You might remember, board members, that though there was a debate, when this topic was a budget item for discussion in the budget development, there was an expectation that adding an additional person would, number one, make the load of the current one employee fair, and also would expand the capacity of the school district. We're operating a local television station. And none of our neighbors are doing the same thing. So what this school district is doing for its community far exceeds what is the norm in school public relationships. So the goal was to expand the delivery of services and the variety of services through the public access channel that we operate to the general citizenry, and what Mr. Allen and Ms. Mingle have said is accurate as to what that variety would include. That's why this recommendation is on the agenda.
Well, Dr. Bose, in all fairness to the department, Mrs. Taylor, would you please come forward and make whatever comments you wish to make on behalf of you and Mr. Weir, and then please be willing to field board questions of the department.
I'll do the best I can. I know that if Ken were here, he would be happy to speak to this, and he isn't, as you know. I remember the discussion during the budget session about this, and there was an extensive discussion, I felt, and a thoughtful discussion, and good questions by members of the board. And at that time, I felt Ken was prepared and did answer a lot of the questions about the fact that we do intend to enhance things. We've already talked to Mary about concerns that we want more programming. She works a long week. She works 60, 70 hours a week now in order to accommodate what has to be done, because for everything that you see on the screen and all the time that involves, which is most often at night, very often at night, there then is time during the day that she needs to prepare it to go on and to be edited, to put the names on, to prepare it for film. So there's a lot of work that's done for everything that's on that isn't visible to anybody else. Mary and I met with Dr. Hassler today. We very much hope to begin a program with him that will deal with curriculum issues on a regular basis. We need time to do these things and to work on these things. We have other programs involved that we want to do that we think are important for the community to see. We think parents love all the programming that they're seeing, and they want to see more of their children. We think that there needs to be more discussion of board issues. We need more time for the board members to talk about the issues that are facing this community and be able to articulate them more clearly. It is our intention to expand things considerably with this. This is not something that's intended to keep things where they are. We intend to take a next step. And when the discussion occurred during the budget season, we felt we had approval from the board to go ahead with this. We would not have come forward with a recommendation to hire tonight if it was not our sense during the budget season that, in fact, you were supporting that. That was our sense, that when it was approved in the budget, that was our approval to move forward. And that's what we're doing, because we really want this to be ready for fall. We don't want to wait. We want to have it up and running as fast as we can. So I don't know if that helps any of you who have confusion about this. I hope it does. I'll answer questions if I can. I'm not sure I'm prepared to answer all of them, but I'm happy to if I can.
Well, Mrs. Tatum, just for clarification, what appeared to be a consensus during the budget was exactly that. I believe there was a number of board members that had a consensus to leave the money in the budget, but as you know, when it involves personnel, it always comes up later.
I understand that, certainly.
The hiring and the consensus to keep the money in the budget are two different things.
Okay, fine.
Board questions to the right, Mr. Schilling.
What questions were made?
Mrs. Sherr.
Yes, Gail, I remember that conversation. I did speak to this issue. However,
Yes.
I followed most board members. There was no return to that conversation.
No, there wasn't.
For consensus at that time. As a matter of fact, it was dealing with all areas of community ed, and I was the first to introduce the second TV specialist. And after that, it progressed on to a new topic area. So for clarity there. My understanding that Mike Pettin, under his AV technology responsibilities, was providing assistance.
Mike Pettin is really working in technology and AV. His expertise is not in television. There has not been much correlation with television. Mike Pettin's expertise is half-time technology and half-time audiovisual,
then those
which is different from television.
Right, but those people, then I had heard, I was not at the Taxpayers Association forum, I was told that Mr. Pettin ran the cameras that day. I guess those people who told me that were wrong?
No.
Mr. Pettin, yes, does help.
Numerous times to help.
Yes.
Because we tried to say the job for one person, Mary Fakish, sometimes putting literally in 60 and 70 hours to do the production work is too much for one person.
But he is a part of his responsibilities. It's providing assistance.
Some, but it isn't a major portion of his time, and it isn't enough to do programming and editing and the massive work that's involved with trying to produce programming. He has stood behind a camera for us a couple of times, but it's my understanding that is not a major component of Mike Pettin's position.
Fine. They are both 12-month positions? The two TV specialist positions are 12-month positions. Mike Pettin's position is also a 12-month position?
Is that right, Art? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We are in from the middle of June, July, and August. The number of student activities are extremely limited at this time in our school district.
Right.
What is going on with the TV services that prevents us from revising their work calendar in order to utilize their time, that the compensation for those hours that are placed during the 9.5 to 10 months that there is school activity isn't reciprocated within the funding? In other words, outside of these board meetings that we are holding right now,
yes.
In many cases, they don't even occur in July and August, but nonetheless, it's very limited activity.
Right.
What is happening that is creating the burden for some that there can't be some proactive programming for when the season really starts up? Parents are paying attention, or more attention anyway.
She's doing that.
That some of your curriculum programming that you want to bring forward isn't perhaps being set up if it's involving staff as opposed to the students themselves.
She is very busy right now. She's been working with the School to Work program and attending a lot of their programs. We hope to do a major feature on what's been happening this summer with the interns in the career program. She will be filming the Merck Institute effort, which is happening, that whole leader-teacher program, which is happening in August, I believe it is. And we hope to do a program on that and to have footage that's appropriate for that. One of the major things that she's doing now is working with equipment repairs, cataloging, and getting the studio, work in the studio that was not able to happen during the year with the activity there. She's doing a lot of that now. So there's a lot of physical work as well as work that's happening in terms of getting ready for programming. We've been wanting to get ready back to school programs, which she's intending to get some footage. We thought it would be a nice story to talk about the work that's done by all the summer kids who do all the custodial work for us in the schools and the effort that's made to do back to school work. So in fact, she is doing a lot of camera work, and she has had students working with her this summer, not into the same extent that we do during the year, but that is happening. She isn't working as many hours in the evening, which I'm grateful for, but she is very busy during the day doing these other things. So there are things happening.
I will say that at the time that Ms. Fakish was recommended, there were some questions asked of Ken regarding background and ability to fulfill the need on the TV specialist, and there was great assurance that it was up to the task, and certainly there was no discussion regarding a second person being added to do that. My concerns deal with the fact that we are dealing with after-school programs when we're dealing with the students. They do all happen after school and with limited periods of time. We have a viewing audience that you want to select your hours. You can be counterproductive if you're playing something just once, because we need the rotation in order for a bigger part of our audience to see that. And it's my understanding that with the equipment we have, once something is taped, once it is edited, and it's playing 4 or 5 times, but you don't need a body inside the studio. This is going into a deck, and it's being programmed through. So many of the hours of viewing that are made available to this community, it's the initial labor that's placed into it that you need the personnel for.
That's
and
true.
then it repeats itself with very little labor required for that.
As long as it's not too many hours, then she has to go back in the night and change the tapes. So that's true for a limited number of hours, but then she has to be attentive to that and change tapes when she needs to. But mostly what you're saying is true.
Right.
In
Now,
the evening when it's
prime viewing
airing,
area-
she does not have to sit in the studio during the airing time.
And we consider prime viewing area really the 5 to 10 p.m. We don't play anything beyond, or at least we attempt
try
not
not
to,
to.
other than
Yes.
one of our very extended.
Mr. Sure, you have more questions? So
No,
move
that
around.
would go on.
Mr. Weitz?
Well, I'll just say that I think it's inherently unfair to expect that any of our employees have to work a 50, 60, 70-hour week on a regular basis to produce the programs and to be available to produce the programs that this board has required that we would hope to present to the public. And I think in terms of just the sheer number of production hours that are being put into place, we need another person to do that. If we decide we don't want to show those programs and that we're going to do less taping after hours, and Mary can get back to a regular work schedule or a 40-hour week, plus whatever may be required on a periodic basis, that we don't need this position. But as long as we hope to enhance this program and we think there's value to the community, we should approve this evening.
Mr. Clements?
I don't get cable TV.
But you can explore and watch it, right?
But you know, I'm coming up on finishing my 4th year on this board, and I would say I don't know if it's that more of the programs my kids are in this year or what it is, but over this past year, and even as late as last week at a school-to-work program, I've seen Mary Fakish working with kids, working with our community, more than I've seen anybody involved with this TV, okay, within this district. And I think she's doing an excellent job. I also think that this board prides itself on we want to get the money to the kids. And from what I have seen that Mary has done, and with bringing Bob back on board, I look at Kyle Berger there behind the camera there. I don't know if it's one that even made it on the TV, because again, I don't get cable TV, but Mary was kind enough to give me a tape of when Kyle did a report at Inglewood Elementary School on students who volunteered, and we get all caught up on the buzzword of technology. Personally, I like to get caught up on the words volunteer, because I don't think none of us volunteer enough. But Mrs. Dwell, the principal, was kind enough to volunteer her time to work with the kids to create a project to make quilts for the homeless, okay? And they did it. Kyle was there and he did an interview. And it was fabulous. Again, I don't know if it even made it on the cable, because I don't get it. But my point is this money that's getting is money that's getting to the kids, it's getting to the community. It's not only good PR, but it's a teaching tool. And I'll support them 100%.
Well, let's clear it up. Young Mr. Berger, was it on Channel 16? Your interview about the quilts?
I believe so.
No, it has not been on yet.
I don't think it made it.
It will be. It will be.
It will be?
It's a package, yes. It will be. It's a great story.
But you did an excellent job,
It is.
Kyle.
It is a great story.
Yeah, no one's blaming you, Kyle. Mr. Round.
I just want to confirm something that Tom has said. As I travel around the district and go to this event and that event, I can remember seeing Bob Gilmer at every one I went to. And I remember saying to him one time, "Don't you have a life?" He said, "No, this is it." And I don't question the work ethic of anybody involved with this program. And again, if we're going to enhance it, we have to add another person. Thank you.
Mrs. Krieger?
Yeah, I think there isn't a question in anybody's mind of the hard work that Ms. Fakish has done in her tenure here with the district. She, as an employee for this district, has been superb in her capacity as TV specialist. My only concern with this added position dealt with the expansion of the program that we are going to provide on Channel 16 in the future. I think Mr. Mosey already explained some of the clarification that he asked for in his direct conversations with both Ms. Tatum and Mr. Weir back, when was that, in November? This board, during the budget process, did have some concerns and did ask some questions for clarification, which maybe because there wasn't 5 of us, we never were responded to. So let me ask Dr. Bose or Ms. Tatum at this time. With the additional TV specialist, can the board anticipate the need for additional equipment, crew, the hiring of any added crew? I'm not even quite sure. I believe, or at least it's been my understanding, that the individuals who man our cameras, both here for our board meetings and at all the events that they help to tape, are students or previous students who are volunteering. I might be wrong.
That's true. Yes. They're students.
Can we anticipate that to stay the same? Or are we going to begin the process of developing truly a television station with future needs, which will require extensive budget enhancements in the future? That is all this is about. What can we expect for the future? I'm not trying to sit here and say Mr. Gilmore wasn't a good employee, or that Ms. Fakish is not a good employee, or that they're not dedicated or hardworking. That's not the issue. The issue is our questions initially during budget time were never answered. And I will say again, maybe it was because there wasn't 5 of us that had the same concerns. That's unfortunate. But as I sit here tonight, it's nice that some of these things are finally being discussed. But I still have no comfort level in knowing what to expect in the future. And to run a TV station and to supply a TV station with top-of-the-line equipment, I'm sure this technology changes every day, just like computer technology changes every day. I wanted some kind of an indication and some level of comfort and actually a little bit of accountability in the request for this added position. And I don't have it. I have nothing in writing that assures me of what to anticipate, if anything, within the next year after Mr. Gilmer starts on August the 18th, if he plans or how he plans to enhance it. And quite frankly, folks, you know, that budget is cut pretty close to the dime. And I just don't know, how you're going to respond if Mr. Gilmer comes in and finds that we need added equipment and things of that nature, because those things were not discussed by the board. Your enhancements were not discussed and clarified to the board, and that is the simple fact. And I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm just trying to state it for the way I see it, and I it just amazes me how things are always reduced to,
Ms. Tatum, what are you trying to feel?
an anti-situation.
We have
doesn't apply.
in the budget this year. We did put in what we anticipated to be the equipment, and did give you an outline of what we expect to be the equipment costs for this year. So that was reviewed. We requested a teleprompter, and that was included. We requested an additional deck, and that was included. We did not ask for another camera. We don't anticipate the need for another camera. We don't anticipate any other equipment costs at all this year other than those things. We did put in some money for replacement needs and repairs that we expect may happen if a camera breaks down. But those are the only equipment requests that we have, and they were all outlined in the budget. So I'm not anticipating any more because of this. That was all part of what we expect.
I understood from Ken that there was going to be more done with what we have.
That's right.
That stewardship would be increased.
That's exactly right. The only things that were in the budget and that were approved were the teleprompter and one more deck.
Right.
And we just feel that the cameras can be used more if we have another body to move them. We don't need more cameras at this point. So, no, we have put everything in that we feel we need.
Mrs. Krieger, do you have anything?
I guess the only other thing, the question that I had before was, are there any plans to, Dr. Hassler, maybe you know, since you're in the process of revising the high school curriculum, are there any plans to add any kind of TV courses at the high school? At one time, we had TV technology, I believe it was, and there was somebody in that position who either took a leave or something happened to the individual, but was there one day and gone the next, and they stopped the class, and we have a TV studio out there that pretty much has gone underutilized or not even used at all since that time. Has somebody been hired, put back in there? Are we anticipating adding any courses at the high school level to give our students added opportunities to maybe look into TV as a future job? I mean, that's the kind of thing I'm asking about, what to anticipate as a board, because as you know, if you're anticipating adding courses, I'd like to know who's going to teach the course.
I'll try to answer that.
Is Ms. Fakish or Mr. Kilmer?
Excuse me, Mrs. Krieger. I'll try to answer the question, and Dr. Hassler can assist me if I create any voids. You approved the program of studies in December of '96 for the '97-'98 school year. Does not include any additional TV courses. As we approach the development of the program of studies, which you'll again approve, hopefully as early as December of '97, that would be the first time you would see any evidence, if any comes forward, of a recommendation to add a teaching staff member or a course to be taught by such a staff member for the following year, 98-99. So I can assure you, nothing will change for 97-98. It's possible, but yet remains to be seen of whether anything would emerge as a recommendation to you for 98-99, and I think that will emerge, if it does, in December of '97.
Plus, it still has to come here.
It still has to, well, that's what I mean. And by emerge, I mean it comes before the board as the usual report on the program of study.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Moser.
I'll just reiterate what I said, that when I had the liaison meeting and it came up during budget time, all we were told was that there were more demands being placed by this board. I don't recall this board ever giving any direction as to what we wanted to see in more programming or see anything in the way of additional programming. And you're right, Mrs. Tatum, there was more equipment that was put into the budget, and when I asked why, I was told it was to make Mary's job easier. We needed additional decks and so forth, and we approved that. And now, we're coming forward, and now after all that, now we need another person. And I'm sorry, I just, until Mr. Weir brings forward some kind of agenda or what he would like to do or gives us some kind of an idea as to why we need this person, it's justification. I'm sorry, I have to see justification. I can't vote for it. And there's no reflection, nothing personal. I met Mr. Gilmore when he was here, and I thought he did a fine job. But I think that we're talking with taxpayers' money here. We're talking about two people filling the same position. And I think we have a right to know, and the public and the taxpayers have a right to know what they plan to do with this personnel now.
Okay, let me focus the board for a minute. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Mrs. Hatfield, help me with who made the motion.
Okay, originally, this one was made by Allen and Weiss.
Okay, that was a motion and a second. Does anybody wish to change that? Motion and second.
I do not.
Motion to table?
Does anybody wish to change that? You have
I have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to table and there's a second. Solicitor, help me. That vote's then taken.
Take it now.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Wait.
Motion to table.
Motion to table.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Roll call, Mrs. Hatfield, please.
Allen,
No.
Clemens,
No.
Krieger,
Yes.
Mosey,
Yes.
Scher,
Yes.
Schilling,
No.
Weiss,
No.
Mangle.
No. Is there a motion to hire Mr. Robert Gilmer as television specialist for $35,000? Oh, it doesn't have to be redone? Thank you.
Call for the question.
Call for the question. Thank you, Mr. Allen. All in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay.
Nay.
Mrs. Hatfield, roll call.
Clemens,
Aye. Yes.
Krieger,
Nay.
Mosey,
Nay.
Sherrick,
Nay.
Schilling,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Mangle.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Mrs. Tatum.
Wait a minute, did we have 5 affirmative? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam President, if I may, there's one other personnel item I want to recommend. I'm not sure that it was included as an addendum, but it's important enough to treat separately, and that's the recommendation to approve the waiver of the requirement to return from sabbatical for Winona Bracken Benami for reasons of health, and I believe you've all received a confidential memo about this serious health condition.
Second.
Okay, motion by Allen, second by Scher. Mrs. Hatfield, please note for the record that we are missing from the party Mr. White, that he's missing for this vote. Any questions to the right? To the left? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay.
Nay.
Thank you. We're now moving to personnel on BA3, the recommendation to approve the following additions to the summer custodial maintenance crew at the hourly rate of $5.35 each. And those employees would be Larry Connon, Daniel Halpin, and Scott Johnson.
So moved.
Second.
The motion was by Schilling, second was by Allen. 4 questions to the left?
Good question.
4 questions to the right? All in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Mrs. Hatfield, again, note that Mr. White is missing.
The next recommendation is seeks your approval of the additions to the extra duty assignments for the 1997-98 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Allen, second by Clemens. Questions to the left, Mr. Mosey?
No question.
Mrs. Krieger?
Yes. Dr. Miller, the green sheet that we received dated July 15th, 97, there was 13 positions yet to be named. Have any of those changed?
Dr. Hassler is handling extra duty.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yes, he is.
No, not at this
Hassler?
time, but the principals are working on it right now.
Okay. Can we anticipate in the August agenda, on August the 12th, is that the only meeting we're having that month, Dr. Bose? Are we
The
meeting
12th
twice in August?
and the regular meeting, the
Okay, so we
21st.
won't be taking action on any extra duty positions till the end of August, is that correct?
That's the regular
Okay.
business meeting, that's
Okay.
correct.
Can we anticipate these 13 vacancies to be ready to be filled on that agenda?
Yes.
And as well as the appointments or the nominees for the extra duty positions for the spring sports in August? 'Cause that's the normal cycle.
I believe whatever fits into the normal
For
cycle.
spring? In August?
Yeah, yeah, they do.
You do winter.
Mr. Wood, why are you making that face? Do you know something we don't know? Okay.
I thought we did winter before we did spring.
Yeah, I
Right.
thought for sure we did.
This is fall. We didn't even do winter, put it in spring, which would be basketball and wrestling and
Has there been,
Swimming.
has there been an occurrence in the past perhaps where one person maybe had more than one assignment but was awarded both assignments at the same time?
There were times in spring.
I don't think so.
There were times that we've seen spring.
Well, let's get it from Mrs. Miller.
Could you point him in August?
Mrs. Krieger, repeat the question because I was a little confused.
Has there been a time where perhaps one person who may have 2 or more assignments during the year, maybe in the fall, winter, and spring, that they would be given all 3 assignments at the same time?
I believe that has happened in the past,
Okay,
Mrs. Krieger.
maybe that's just what I'm thinking then, on a particular appointment. Okay. When is the normal appointment time then for spring sports? Around October, November?
We, to the extent that we can, if we can appoint for the whole year, including all seasons, in the summer, we'll do that.
Okay, see, this is what I'm confused about.
That generally means that's people who want to continue. We want them to continue.
Okay.
And so there's no consideration for a change. Now, when there are vacancies or when we want to make a change, we might do those closer to the season on those 3 dates a year that have been identified for appointments prior to the season. And so it's possible that on the summer action that you will take on our recommendations, that there may be fall, winter, and spring. But it's also possible that some of those jobs, as they would occur in the winter or spring, might not be filled until closer to that time. Sometimes we go looking desperately, particularly in the middle schools, for somebody to do something, and until we have an opportunity to do that, they may go unfilled.
Okay. I guess I'm just a little concerned about the fall sports who don't have any people named right now, because I know that their season starts August 1st.
Well, the middle schools do not start until the kids are in school. The high schools do start sooner, and those are the ones that we really have to be concerned about.
Yes.
So now I don't know where we are with, do we have any fall sports, Dr. Miller, at the high school level that are not filled yet?
Yes, and I spoke with Dr. Cotter today, and he assured me that they will be interviewing for soccer coaches. He assured me that they are including people from the community on the interviewing committee so that there are representation there, and that will be done very shortly.
Will practices start August 1?
For soccer, I don't know the exact date of that.
August the 11th.
By PIA regulations.
Okay, we will make the appointments on August 12, so the people who might say, I want to do that and do it for one day, know that they're not official until the board appoints them on the 12th. That's a risk they take.
On the 12th or the 21st, because that was my first question.
Well, since we're going to have a special meeting, we're going to do some action, I think, knowing your attitude toward retroactivity, you want to do it as soon as possible. Do you agree, Mr. Mosey?
I agree, Dr. Bose.
That's one thing we've always agreed on.
Yes. We agree on more than that, though.
There you go. That's true. Any further questions?
But the head coaching positions for the cheerleaders at the high school, Dr. Miller, they don't start in August. They don't start until the students come back to school. Because I thought that was something that, like, they do during the summer and stuff. They do start in August, don't they? That's what I thought. Okay. Are we anticipating any trouble filling that position?
I don't know. I'm not, excuse me, but I'm not working with those positions.
Dr. Hassler, I'm sorry.
I can't say that we anticipate it. I know Vince is working on all of these right now. Dr. Cotter's working on all of these positions right now. We had a meeting the other day to assure all of us that we would have people in place so that when we started the sports, we would have a full contingent of coaches.
Any other questions? No. Okay, real quick. Mr. Allen, this way. This way. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, would say nay. Thank you.
This is on the question. When we broke up back in BA2 personnel, did we break that up here? I'm confused about that. Are we going to go back to that?
Well, you know what? I mentioned that to Dr. Bose and Mrs. Hatfield. Please check your record there. We broke out nominations only, I believe, without Mr. Gilmer. Then we brought Mr. Gilmer back in for a positive return. And we now need to go from B retirements, C, retirements, resignations, change of status. We're exempting E and F this evening for further financial audit on accurate numbers, and salary changes G. So we're doing B, C, D, and G. Is that the understanding, Dr. Bose?
No, I thought.
Well, I would admit that being as confused as any of you may be, I attempted to move them all at once except C and F. I mean E and F. E and F. Beg your pardon.
So there's some. Why is that? May I ask, please?
Efficiency. timeliness.
No, I'm saying, what's wrong with E and F?
Oh, we're not sure the data is accurate, Mr. Schilling.
There's
so
protest on the numbers.
We want to recheck
Okay,
the
fine.
numbers and bring them back to you on August 12th.
Okay, fine. So can I make a motion to
Is there any way, Madam President, that you could deal with some of E?
Right, there's a
We'll
lot.
have a head custodian effective tomorrow that is very critical of General Nash, and there's no audit of numbers there. And I also have an area supervisor in food service that is very important to us now.
I don't think any of these was under question, quite frankly. That's
So
why I
it
don't
was
understand.
seven.
I don't think any of these was under
Okay,
question.
one moment.
E&F
Dr. Bose, the question, let me show you.
E&F was originally questioned.
But I don't believe that was under questions, so I don't know why. I didn't
Okay,
ever understand.
ladies and gentlemen, that is correct. E is support staff position change. E is fine. It was the salary corrections and the two gentlemen listed there. There was concern that those numbers may in fact be wrong. There was grievance on those numbers. And under salary changes, there was a question that came up under Mr. Slaughterbeck.
Yes.
Okay, is there any questions on Mark Gerhardt? So I think if the board would be willing.
Madam President, I think the question of Mr. Slaughterbeck
Yeah,
was
that was
resolved.
answered.
That
was resolved.
You're fine?
Yes.
That was resolved.
Okay, G,
The
salary
only-
change is fine. The only one in question is
Salary
the accurate
changes.
numbers on salary corrections.
F is the only one in question.
Okay,
Right, Dr. Bose?
I would agree.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, B, C, D, E, and G. Okay. Motion by Schilling, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Whites. Questions? Could there possibly be any more questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed would say nay. Thank you. Back to the list again.
Dr. Bose, may I just ask one question, because I may not have heard correctly. Did we omit F?
Yes.
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 Okay.
We withdrew that
All of F?
to be,
There's two gentlemen, their numbers have to be.
for the numbers to be confirmed and then represented on August 12th.
Well, her concern would be the support staff underneath.
Madam President, is there any way, I mean, in order for us to pay Chris Frisco his proper salary, we will have to pay him an improper salary unless that's acted upon
Okay,
tonight.
I thought I was clear when I mentioned the two gentlemen
Okay, but we haven't acted on the support
on the
staff.
support staff. Okay, let's make that a separate motion. Mr. Schilling? Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we're looking at salary corrections.
Support staff,
There are 5 names, and the corrections listed. Any other questions? All in favor would say aye. Aye. Opposed would say nay. Thank you.
The remaining items are information. Call to your attention the granting of professional status to teacher Tina Graff and the vandalism report. All those items on page BA10.
Okay, members of the board, I do have appointments to make this evening that have been discussed with all of you, I believe. What we'd like to do is make some board appointments. I would like to point out that we have, under the contract with the NPEA, agreed to meet 2 members of the board and an administrator, along with 3 members of the association, to discuss and provide written report to the community by 98, a merit performance compensation plan, research, study, analysis. To that committee, I'm naming not only myself, but Mrs. Scher, and that is the Merit Performance Compensation Committee with the NPEA, Association Teachers Union. For the administrators, the NPAA, same study, same type of committee work, but for administrators, assigned to that committee is Don Hill, Sharice Krieger, and Patrick Mosey. Also, we are in need, desperate need, and this is at the recommendation of not only Dr. Bose, but especially Dr. Miller, for a support staff compensation committee. On that committee, I have asked Mr. Allen, Mr. Clemens, and Mr. Whites to serve. And this is to look at our support staff and their compensation packages practices that we have had in the past, practices we need to better clarify, focus, and look to in the future. As you well know, we made a very good plan of correction for the staff nurses in this past budget. There are other support area groups that need to be looked at, and maybe first and foremost on that list, because there's a certain amount of groundswelling of concern because of past practices, is the group of secretaries. Mr. Clemens, you're aware of what I'm talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
So that might be a committee we might want to start out with right away, and that group to go first under your study. There was a committee of secretaries that used to meet in the past that was chaired, that committee, I believe, by Brenda Haber.
Yes, that will continue, Mrs. Mangle.
Will that continue?
Yes, Dr. Conley has only been with us a short time, but he has plans to continue that.
So can we resume that and also keep the same people on that committee that were there, the secretaries in the past, so there's no appearances of anybody being rejected or left out?
No, we will certainly do that. We've also sent a letter to secretaries and asked for any additional volunteers.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to take a break. We ran it up to the last minute. Thank you, Miss. So we'll be back in 5 minutes. We got everybody? All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. At the time that we took what was supposed to be a 5-minute recess to change the tape, students, thank you for doing that. Committee assignments were being made. The last committee I have to appoint is a committee to aid the search for the finance manager's position that was approved earlier this evening under rework. On that committee will be both members of finance, which is Mrs. Sharp, Mr. Mosey, and added to the group will be Mr. Allen. Okay, those are 4 separate committees. Assignments have been made. Mrs. Hatfield, you have all of those for matter of the record? Thank you. Okay, thank you. Treasurer's report, Mr. Wood.
Financial reports for the month of June. Cash receipts for June 97, $4,363,695.57. Cash receipts year-to-date, $113,728,029.55. Cash disbursements for June 1997, $14,389,800.09. Cash disbursements year-to-date, $107,684,789.41. Short-term investments currently $13,845,696.26. Total investments, since we have no long-term investments, would be the same as our short-term investments.
Thank you, sir. Sanction approval of invoices for general fund, Mr. Wood.
Bills to be sanctioned. Disbursements for the month of June. On a prepaid list, general fund, $4,318,754.01. Bond fund, $217,440.38. Payroll, $9,361,000. Other, $73,297. Voided checks in the amount of $585.21, for a total of $13,969,906.51. I would ask for those to be sanctioned. To be approved, disbursements for the month of July from the check register out of the 97-98 budget in the amount of $59,362.41.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Krieger. Second by Mosey. Questions?
I think that last one was the 96-97 bond fund, not the, was that 1990? Were you listing the bond fund, or you said the budget, yet they're bond disbursements?
I said the budget. Out of the 97-98 budget, in the amount of 59.
Okay, I thought the second one you announced is bond disbursements at the beginning.
Yeah, 217.
You said bond disbursements.
Under the treasurer's report,
Okay, thank you.
I gave you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Art.
Bond
Okay, so
I'm
motion
sorry,
and a second
sure.
clear? Both of you folks?
Yes. That's fine.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, would say nay. Thank you. Continue, Mr.
Food service report. Total income for the month of June, $129,752.33. Year-to-date, $3,396,729.53. Gross profit on sales, month of June, $57,251. Year-to-date, $1,917,391.69. Total profit year-to-date, June, we had a loss in the amount of $174,980.94. Net profit year-to-date, $237,819.09. I would just like to point out for your information, where you see year-to-date lunches served, we increased our serving this year for lunch at the lunchtime at 20,864 additional lunches. And I guess the interesting increase is in our breakfast program. We have increased our breakfast program between 96 and 97 in the amount of 13,814 breakfasts that were served above and beyond 1996. Thank you.
13,000.
Boy, oh boy.
Question, Mr. Mayor?
Really?
13,000
Remember the tough time getting that on the floor, Mr. Wood? How tough that was?
Why are we showing a $174,000 loss?
June, we always show a loss. We serve very few meals in June because of early dismissals, because of exams and so forth, but yet we still have our regular payroll. Not the regular payroll that would extend for serving purposes, but our regular payroll and expenses as it relates to people that are 12 months, or our driver, our truck driver, our secretaries, Mrs. Zerman, and so on.
Thank you.
But you can't leave out the end of the year parties, picnics, field trips, and skips. Okay. Federal programs, Dr. Bose.
No report.
No report. Okay. Solicitor?
Thank you. I have no report.
Okay, very good. Solicitor, I would just asked if you would confer later this week with Dr. Bose. There were some questions from various board members in regards to opinions held by the PSBA on state bid and state bid requirements. So if you could find some time in this upcoming week to talk with Dr. Bose and field those questions, would be appreciated. Sure. Thank you, sir. Motion to adjourn. Thank you.